Welcome to Wealthing Talks. I am your host, Alicia Castillo-Holly, bringing you real-life conversations from Silicon Valley or somewhere around the world. We will talk about disruptors, angel investments, venture capital, and of course, family offices. Join me along with my children, their families, friends, disruptors, and investors as we explore the fascinating world of creating wealth in a completely different and authentic way. Thank you so much for being here with us. It is such a pleasure to have my guest, Chinenye, here with us. Chinenye, thank you so much for being here with us.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
So tell us, what are you doing now? You just had a very important milestone in your life. And how did you get here?
So I'm still reeling off my graduation from Harvard. We had our commencement last week. I had family from all over the world, from Nigeria, the UK, US, and I basically took out time to go back to school. I did a mid-career master's in public administration. After over a decade, about 12 or 13 years working as a lawyer, also as an investor and a serial entrepreneur on the continent. I like to call myself a nation builder. So over the years, I've spent time building people, building institutions, and doing my best to make an impact. I come from Nigeria. I'm Igbo by tribe. And yeah, I'm a mom as well. I'm really, really proud to wear multiple hats across the legal sphere, philanthropy, and investing. So yeah, that's a little bit about myself.
Yeah, well, that's good. Never a boring life, I'm sure. So what made you decide to go back to school? What was the trigger?
So I had gotten to a certain point in my life. So building a law and consulting firm, advising global clients like Apple and the like, development banks, sovereign wealth funds. It seemed great, like on the face of it, on paper. But I kept feeling like I was like a big fish in a small pond. And I just kept thinking that there was more, more to accomplish, more that I could give. But at the same time, the version of me prior to this program that I had, there were certain gaps that I had in knowledge. So I would know some things on the surface, but then the in-depth analysis, was required. And I wanted to be able to separate myself to actually sacrifice the freedom that I have. Because, going back to school full time, I had to start writing essays, taking exams, studying all night. These are things I haven't done since my last degree. I got a law degree in the UK in 2012. I graduated from that. So it's been over 14 years, going to 15 years that I haven't done any of that. So, but I decided to go back because I wanted to discipline myself. And I wanted to meet people like minds because the journey that we're on, you can't do it alone, especially if you have big goals and big plans. You need to meet like-minded people. And I was fortunate to meet amazing people at Harvard, from presidents to Fortune 500 CEOs, but then just to people who have NGOs, politicians, people working at the grassroots, people who have risked their lives to make a difference. And I think for me, it was like finding like minds and a kindred, a tribe of people that I could conquer the world with. So that's my motivation. One, to develop myself, to sharpen my skill sets, and also to build a community and a tribe to make greater impact with.
Wow. And coming from Nigeria to London, and then you went back to Nigeria after London?
Yes.
Were you in London?
I was just outside London. I went to University of Essex. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I mean, there was a big gap. And then in that gap, I went back, I did an executive program at Oxford. I did two executive programs at Harvard, but they were all like short executive programs. I think this time I wanted to take a deep dive and really separate myself and go back to basics, go back to the foundation, kind of like. So yes. And I also wanted to synthesize everything I've learned for over, 13 years of working. I wanted to be able to put all that into perspective because I just believe most times in life we're in a hurry to get to the next milestone, but we don't take time to actually reflect on the lessons we've learned along the way. I wanted to be able to sit with that and, be able to then forecast what the next chapter of my life would be. So that's basically it.
What a great opportunity to spend time thinking about what is your next chapter. I did that when I was in my mid-30s, and I went and managed an opera house. So
That's amazing. Well, you see, you have such an interesting life.
yeah,
And
yeah,
every time I learn something new about you.
no, it was fun. It was fun. It was really fun. So along those lines, what is the one thing that you've learned that you wish you knew when you were much younger? What is the lesson that you've learned, or the
So
lessons?
there's so many lessons, but to be honest, the way I lived my life before, I always used to like chase after things. So I lived a life of toil, if you don't mind me just using that word. I was
A life of
toiling,
eh,
a life of toil, like toiling. So, people can call it hustle, right?
mhm.
Um, and so because you're a woman, a person of color, and even being a young person, sometimes people look down on you. So you always feel like you have to double down, you have to work harder, you have to prove yourself. And that's great. You get to a certain point with that, you accomplish certain things, but then after some time you burn out and you make a lot of costly sacrifices. And so now I am trying to focus more on the inside, and I'm a person of faith as well. So I like to spend time reflecting because I believe the answers are all within.
Mhm.
So instead of always toiling and being in a hurry, so imagine if I should go to a conference right now, instead of trying to meet everybody at the conference, exchange business cards, I'd rather spend some time reflecting, praying, and then being led to know who am I meant to speak to. Maybe it's just one person I need to meet at that conference. So I don't need to toil or think about the numbers or measure myself with somebody else. I have to live a life that is a little bit more balanced, but still very productive and impactful. So that's what I look for alignment now, more so than just the metrics. Like, oh, how many things did you launch? How many places did you go to? How many speaking engagements? It's not about that. Now I have more of an internal compass that helps me know what is priority, you know. And then
Mhm.
another thing also is living a life of purpose. Because we all come into this world to make a difference. And, you know, for me, there's no point living a life. I'm not living my life for any other person. I'm living my life so that I can die empty, right?
So you can
So
die empty.
yes, I want to die empty. So I also have this, try not to be afraid, try not to overthink things, but seizing opportunities and enjoying the ride, and then making sure that my life is making an impact and I'm fulfilling my purpose, the reason why I'm here on this earth. So for me, that's how I now, I just kind of like work with the end in mind, if that makes sense. And I just want to like enjoy the journey while I'm on it. Because some people get into this rat race. I've seen a lot of friends who have been in, corporate world, or they've done certain things and they've just been grinding, grinding, grinding. And you get to the top and it doesn't feel like you're at the top because you're so miserable,
Yeah.
right? You don't have any balance, your hormones are all over the place, you're losing your hair, everything is just a mess because you've sacrificed so much. So I think being able to understand what is important, what is my own unique contribution that I make to this world, because there's no one like you, there's no one like me, so you
Yeah.
have a unique path and you don't have to compare yourself with any other person. You just need to be true to yourself. And so that's what I've tried to live my life. Sometimes I've taken certain pathways that people don't think is right. I remember when I started doing work around like public policy, I set up a think tank, started doing a lot of advocacy. I wasn't doing it to earn money, and people felt like, what is public policy? Why do you care about it? Why do you care about building institutions? But that work that I was doing from a low place, like literally convening town hall meetings, talking to policymakers, going to, just doing it on my own and then building a community of people, led to a point where presidents started reaching out to me. I started getting invited to different countries to come and solve problems for them. And then even some of the people, like the global tech companies like Apple, that I helped with government affairs as it relates to Africa, it was because I had that competence that I built from a place of giving back. You see my point? Like, so it wasn't a thing that was sexy to do at the time, but because of that lens, I have that unique perspective to understand. how institutions work, how governments work, how do people think, how do you develop public policy. That now helps me to be able to create value, and I was able to monetize that. So my point is, if I went about doing the conventional type of law practice or the conventional type of, I wouldn't be where I am, and I wouldn't be fulfilling that purpose because I know I'm called to do that, to build institutions, to build people, to create value, to create wealth. So yeah. So that's just a bit of a nutshell.
So yeah, that was not an easy answer. But do you think now I listen to what you say and I think, do you think we find opportunities or do you think opportunities find us?
That's a great question. I think it's a mix of both. So there are some things that happen by serendipity, like you and I meeting.
Like meeting, yes, yes, exactly.
I wouldn't have thought. I was sitting, I think I was probably bored. We were at a Gates Foundation event. I don't even know what happened. Yeah, I don't even know. But basically, we started talking, right? It's this big event. There's so many people. But I was just sitting there. And then he happened to be sitting, Kim and San. I think there was an empty seat next to me or something. And then we got talking and we just hit it off. I couldn't have orchestrated that no matter how much I plan my day. So that's the part that happens by serendipity. However, there's a role that we have to play
Yeah.
to seize opportunities. So we're on this call now. I'm seizing an opportunity. Remember, we talked about earlier, I also seized an opportunity that I saw as well, and I asked you something. So the point is like it's a mix of both, right? The universe or God or whatever you believe in will meet you halfway, but there's a role that we have to play to seize those moments. So that's my perspective on that.
Yes, yes. What would you recommend somebody that is young, that is listening to the podcast? I'm thinking about my granddaughter who just finished high school, and she had a whole bunch of people giving her advice and blah blah blah. And then I have my card, and my card said, "Don't listen to anybody." So,
Wow.
but we're here, people are listening. So what I wouldn't call it advice. I would say, what comment would you have to somebody that is young or might be older that is listening
Yeah.
and yeah, and it's probably thinking, maybe I should look at things differently. What is the one thing that you could tell them?
I think that you should be authentically yourself. Be authentic, like be authentic. I can't even say it over and over again. I'm a recovering people pleaser. I used to be when I was younger.
Recovering
No,
people, please.
I'm a recovering people pleaser because I always wanted to please. I always wanted, when I was young, I was not too sure of myself. I was very shy and all that stuff. But I just find that like as I found my voice, as I found like what makes me come alive, what gives me that fire in my bones. It just makes you stand out because you speak with passion. When you walk into a room, people believe you, people trust you because you're authentic. We're in a society now where people are trying to be like, oh, this Instagram, you want to like look a certain way, speak a certain way. But I also think that's just boring and pretentious. So my advice would be just be yourself, be authentic. Make sure you spend time finding what it is your unique contribution to this world is, because we all have something unique that we bring to the table. So make sure you spend time. And sometimes you might not figure it out. I didn't know for a long time. I remember I always ask people like, oh, what am I called to do? How do I find purpose? I used to read books. I used to. And then I realized like it's not rocket science, right? Sometimes it's not even just like one big thing. There's seasons of your life. In one season, you might be called to raise a family. In another season, you might be called to make an impact in some community somewhere. In another season, but I think at the end of the day, just knowing what it is and pursuing it makes life much more enjoyable.
Yeah. Well, sometimes I haven't been as lucky as you have. So when I was teenager, I knew exactly what I wanted to be. I wanted to be a scientist. I wanted to manipulate genes to create
Mhm.
plants that were highly nutritional and they were highly adaptable. And I did that for 14 years. I knew exactly what I wanted to do. And then I started moving. And then I moved countries. And we had a joke in the family because I have a horrible sense of direction and I always get lost. I mean, think about it. I grew up in Venezuela. The mountains are in the north. The ocean is on the other side of the mountain. I go to Boston.
Mm.
The mountains are on one side and the ocean are on the other side, and you're stuck in the middle. Then I went to Switzerland. There are mountains all around. And then I went to Chile, and you're in the valley, and the mountains are on the side on the west, and then you have the ocean. And then I went to Australia. I mean, and I went to Houston, and there's no mountains, but the ocean is on the side. So I never know where I'm going. So
Mm.
they joke with with my kids. It's like, Mom, do you know where we're going? And my answer was invariably, I have no clue, but we're going forward. So
Mm.
that's the one thing that I learned, that if you don't know where you're going, just keep going, because you can't stay still. I mean, you don't learn anything. You make a mistake and you learn. If you nail it, you also learn. But that was an
I
insecure joke.
completely agree. I
Yeah,
agree. You need to be comfortable with uncertainty. That's the beauty of life, for
yeah.
sure.
And now you're working on some interesting projects.
Mm-hmm.
I have my own concept about wealth, and as a wealthing podcast, I have started to ask that question. What do you think is wealth, and how do you think we can create or destroy wealth?
Oh, so I'll just say, like, for me, and then I'll talk about, like, maybe for as a nation, right?
Mhm,
So for me, obviously, having wealth is not just about money. It's holistic, right? You want to have other resources. Even your network is a form of
mhm,
wealth.
mhm,
Your influence is a form of wealth. And then in terms of specifics, like we all know there are different types of assets, be it real assets, there are intangible assets, there's intellectual property, there are different forms of wealth. And I also see wealth as something that's generational, right? Wealth should be sustained beyond the lifetime of the person,
mhm,
right? And so we need to move from a scarcity mentality to an abundance mentality. So it starts with your mind. Do you multiply what you have, or do you eat your seeds? Do you eat your capital? A lot of people are not financially, they might be financially literate, but they're not financially prudent. So people think wealth is about buying cars or buying houses and all that. But for me, it's more holistic. And I think wealth needs to come with impact. And the reason why I'm motivated to create lots of wealth is because I really want to make a difference in the world, at scale. And to make a difference at scale, you need to have that wealth. And as a nation, let me talk about Africa because that's where I'm an expert. I believe that we're wealthy as a continent. We have a lot of mineral resources, so many things, even human resources. However, the mindset, you see, that's why I said it's part of it, because some people still have that scarcity mindset, or they feel like they just come in thinking, oh, somebody else is going to come and save them. Meanwhile, you're sitting on all these. You have the demographic dividend, you have so the real wealth actually comes from the mind and the knowledge that you have to be able to utilize your resources and convert them into something that is valuable, and then retain that value, not just allow that value to be extracted. So I believe that for the African continent and other emerging markets, we need to really look at how do we create wealth, because that's the only way to reduce poverty.
yeah,
You don't reduce poverty by aid, you reduce poverty by creating wealth through entrepreneurship, through innovation, and then through value
yeah.
addition to raw materials, creating, industries, creating jobs and the like. So that's my concept in terms of from a personal perspective and from a national or regional perspective.
Yeah, we need to hear more of that, because we're so ignorant of other countries that we haven't been. I just came back from your country, so I fell in love with it. But
Wow.
yeah, it was so nice. But we're so ignorant about how other people live, and we
Hmm.
project our life experiences onto them, and it's a completely different life experience. And I've lived in 9 countries, so I kept saying, "Oh, maybe it's similar to that." And now I just realized that I don't know. I'm just going to go.
Mm, and find out.
But I like, early in our conversation, you were talking about having new measurements of progress, and socioeconomic progress is something that has always been close to my heart. And I very fascinated about the approach that you're taking. So I really, admire that. And I look forward to having another podcast with that later. Now, I do want to ask you, a very spiritual question. You said that you were a person of faith.
Hmm.
And for me, life is a gift that we use, to do something that it's a legacy that lives after we leave. And I got to that conclusion because when I was 13, I fell off a horse. I was in coma, and I woke up a few days later, and
Mm,
I'm like, oh, I am going to die.
mm,
My grandson doesn't think he's going to die, but I'm sure I'm going to die. And
mm,
and I reflect upon that, and that has been a constant, reflection in my life. and has carried me through a lot of things because I said, well, there has to be a reason. I don't like the reason. I don't care.
Mm,
But one of the questions that I am, I guess, is who are you when you're no longer here? What is your essence when you
mm.
leave? So have you thought about that?
Oh wow, I think about that a lot.
Mhm.
Also when I was younger, I used to be very afraid of dying as well. And I also got to a point where I was like, I don't get the point of it. Like, why do you leave and do all these things just so you can die? Like, it makes no sense to me.
Yeah.
Like, couldn't there be something else we could have done? Like, could there have been another way? But it's inevitable, right? And nowadays, that's why I try to make sure that I'm prepared so that any time that is my time, I don't leave thinking, oh, I should have done that, I should have done that. Like I said earlier, I want to die empty. And who am I? So because I'm a person of faith, I genuinely believe that, you know, um, we have three parts of us. We have our spirit, we have our soul, and we have our body. So we have our external part, which obviously is going to die. But the thing that is inside us doesn't die. It never dies. We become a force and we go back to our maker, right? And although I don't know how the parameters of that will be, I always wonder some people who have lost, like, where are they? Can they see us and things like that? But I just think that you would live with your conscience. I just feel like you would, especially at the point where you're transitioning, you would have to really kind of reflect on different things and you would either leave feeling, oh, I'm tired. I want to be like, I'm tired, been there, done that. I don't want to, like, you know what I mean? I don't want to be like, oh my God, what's gonna happen with this? What's gonna happen with that? And I really believe that there will be a reckoning and people would have to kind of give account and take stock one way or the other. So I mean, the other aspects of it are debatable, but I also believe that what you plant here, the things that you do here would have some kind of reflection on
Mhm.
that afterlife, on whether we are there in peace and we're there being happy, being in harmony, being in, or if we plant a lot of evil here and we're just, whether we would have to deal with the repercussions of those things. So for me, like I said, there are different parts. The spirit part of me, I've really further developed it more, like with spending time talking and praying and meditating. And to be honest, that part of me is more alive now and is more active because I hear things, I get direction. Even at some point I dream about things. I have like premonitions and those things come to pass. And I have a feeling like when I meet people. So I rather walk with that sense because it's more like a compass, right?
Yeah.
That helps me make better decisions here. And if I'm doing something wrong, I feel that voice saying, don't do this. You know what I mean? So I think we need to spend more time cultivating that. And that's what helps because most human beings have a void, whether we like it or not. People like to fill that void with alcohol or promiscuity or drugs or whatever the case might be, or partying, or I don't know what all those things are not. I'm not saying partying and all that is bad, but my point is, we need to get to a point where we're not just trying to block out that side of us. We need to be comfortable with our spirits. Like we need to be comfortable knowing that we're spirit beings. All of
Yeah.
us, we're connecting on this call because our spirits connect to each other.
Yes,
And
exactly.
like I told you, even when I went back to Harvard, I went there because I wanted to meet like minds. When I say like minds, I also mean people who our spirits connect,
Hmm.
right? And that's why when I think about someone, I get a phone call from the person or I get a text because my spirit called out to that person's spirit. So I think we need to be comfortable working in that realm. And then doing it in a positive way because there are people who also do it in a negative way as well. You know that, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, that's
How do
that.
you deal with the negative people? This is for our listeners.
Oh my gosh, there are a lot of negative people. There are people who see your light. There are people who see you that, oh my God, this person is coming to make a difference, and they just want to be a thorn. I've faced it. I've faced barriers to the work I do, even those I've done in Africa and other parts of the world. It's everywhere. It's present everywhere. You're in a space, you're in an office. There are people who just feel jealous, envious. All those things are negative spirits.
Hmm.
Someone seeing you and wanting to pull you down. I mean, we see people committing rape, murder, all that. This is when you allow the negativity to fester and then it turns you into something else. So that's
Yeah.
why it's very important to forgive, to unburden yourself, to just have love. I think love is the antidote. That's what really makes you operate at the higher level, love for others. So that helps to just like really purify you. And, like I said, prayer, like if you're in a tough situation, you pray and you say, just help me. There is help available, to be able to mitigate all those evils and all those
Yeah.
trials and tribulations that come our way.
Yeah. Yeah. That's really, really cool. What is next for you?
What is next for me? I want to create a lot of wealth, not just for myself, but for people around me. I want to be able to solve the problem that happens where I mentioned to you on the continent where you have pools of capital, but the capital isn't speaking to each other and is not flowing. There are all these barriers, systemic barriers, and there's a need for intermediation. And then at the bottom of the pyramid, you have a lot of entrepreneurs who are toiling, and even women entrepreneurs as well, men and women,
Yep.
toiling, and they're so innovative, they have bright ideas, but they can't get the right type of capital that is structured in a way that works for their demographic and for their own context. So I want to be able to help with the catalytic growth studio that we're developing to support and enable those businesses at the bottom. And now these are not startups in quotes. These are like businesses at the growth stage that need that capital to be able to scale. And I want to also help me and all the other partners I have to help people to understand Africa, to understand the opportunities, to hold their hands. So be it investors, be it philanthropies, be it, family offices, whoever they might be, anyone who's interested in coming to the continent, for them to see, because it's a complex continent. And when people lack understanding, they're not able to do, the right things. So with that knowledge asymmetry, supporting by way of advisory, helping to de-risk, helping to, be stakeholder engagement, all that stuff. So that's what we intend to do with this vehicle for that. And then on the other side, I'm leveraging the best technology like AI and all other forms of technology to be able to listen better, to strengthen institutions, because I think you need both. If you provide the capital and the institutions are not there, you're going to meet a lot of bottlenecks. But if you're targeting the two at the same time from different ways and different approaches, and then you can come to the middle and then see that you've made, greater impact across board. And like I said to you, we want to create wealth because you actually need to have wealth to be able to create the jobs and create the impact. So for me, it's not just about focusing on charity or, for me, it's about developing enterprise, developing industry, developing people, developing jobs. I think all of that can come together nicely if it's properly structured and if you have the right people around you. So that's why the people is, meeting people like you, meeting other like minds, having a network of change agents, a critical mass of people who want to build and who want to make a difference and who are doing it from positive, because they want to leave the world better. So for me, it's about anchoring with those kind of people and creating the right type of value so that we can look back in the future when we're old and we'll say that, yeah, we did make a difference in the world. Yeah.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Thank you. Thank you for those words. Very inspiring. And
Thank
just
you.
and just for our audience, not everybody has the opportunity to go to Harvard, but everybody has the opportunity to support another entrepreneur and just bring this positive energy to life. So Chinenye, thank you so much for being with us. I look forward to seeing you again. And
thank you. I can't wait.
Well, I hope you enjoyed this conversation. This is an unusual person, a woman of color, like she said, from Nigeria that went highly educated and decided to reinvent herself and go to Harvard for a year. We met at the Gates Foundation Gala in New York last year. I really, really enjoyed this conversation. It's very profound. It's not about doing things, it's about sitting down, reflecting, moving forward. And I do hope you enjoyed this conversation. And I just came back from Nigeria. Huge love for the country and just open doors to that continent. I've only been to North Africa. I've never been to the rest of the continent. So it's very exciting to see what they're doing. We have one world and we can all work together. And I hope you enjoyed this conversation. This is your host, Alicia Castillo-Holly, and I'll see you in the next episode. Thanks for tuning in to our Wealthing Talks. I hope you've enjoyed this conversation. To stay connected, visit us at wealthing.com. This is Alicia Castillo-Holly, your host, and until next time, yours in Wealthing.